and all kinds of that. When I was talking about my first point.
Well, don't
We
punish
should know
yourself
better than
more
this.
than the crime is
No,
worth
but
it.
I hear you. I hear you. Make
All
sure
right.
that crime doesn't match the punishment or whatever.
Something about crime and punishment. That's all I remember. Hold on. Let me switch off my video.
Okay.
All right. You were in the middle of making a point about your buddy from Cincinnati that you met this weekend.
Yeah, he was at the outdoor. He was staying in the motorhome park right next to the park where we had worship, and his name is Mike. And I don't remember his last name, but he had a couple kids, and he was in Michigan for one of his oldest kids was in a baseball tournament or something. But when we switched into gears about talking about what's going on with like all the stuff that went down in Dallas, he became really pensive and he became super serious. And they were having a demonstration in Cincinnati, and he was glad he was on vacation, but he was also really concerned. And he's just said, I'm not really here. My mind and my heart are with my brothers and sisters back in Cincinnati, and I'm just in prayer. And it was a depth of faith and a depth of walking with God that it was impressive to me. And it struck a similar chord as to what you were talking about with the police chief of Dallas. It's out of the horror. There's obviously glimmers of hope, and those glimmers of hope usually are in the form of someone's character totally surprising you. I was
Yeah.
I was by this police officer, Mike. I think he's been a police officer for like 20, 30 years. And his character dwarfed mine, like it was just became apparent that, wow, he exists on a deeper plane than me in certain respects. And so I was just in awe of it. And it's similar to that police chief, like, man, I'm in awe of that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's exactly what I was seeing in the police chief, I think, is that the other part is, like, I'm always amazed at people in the midst of tragedy or chaos who have, like, still, like, they're very resolved and they're very resolute, but they have a plan. Like, it's, like, it's a character thing for sure also, but it also is just this, like, well, this isn't going to stay this way. Like, I know what we're doing next. I know what we need to do after that. And they're not shaken away from that plan by what's going on around them.
Yeah, that's a admirable quality in leaders.
Yeah, I'm at least drawn to it. I don't, I think it's admirable, but I'm definitely drawn to folks like that.
Yeah, that's good. And I was we couldn't go without mentioning all these tragedies that have happened, that stuff in Florida, we haven't talked since then. And then that stuff in Dallas is just, and my take on it is, it's interesting because I watch Colbert. I'm pretty religiously, like I stuck through him, and it's interesting how the entertainment industry it remains it's never more irrelevant than when something like real happens, when tragedy happens.
Yeah.
Like Colbert's monologue right after the Florida incident was, man, I'm tired of giving these speeches, because nothing's ever going to change. And then his monologue right after this stuff at the Dallas, and he was like, I can't say anything about it. I can't really, there's nothing to say about it. And then he just goes on and interviews his guests. And P.S., when Blink 182 is 3-member band, one of them leaves, they're no longer Blink 182. You know, like what's that? They played on Monday night. That's ridiculous. Who is that guy? Who's the guy that replaced that guy that I know? Anyway, that may be a rabbit trail.
Maybe.
But let's get on it. Yeah. Do you want to say anything else about that? These tragedies pull back the veil, and you just realize how much of a mess we're really in. Like that's what I gather.
Yeah, there's in like postmodern philosophy, there's an expression for that, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. But the phrasing has something to do with the real, right? Like it's that there's an interruption of the real, and that sort of snaps you out of. It's sort of like a glitch in the matrix, right? Like it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same thing of like all of a sudden like, oh, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. But then we can usually numb that with enough television or junk food or whatever in my life. I'm trying to think of things I numb it with, but yeah. But that interruption of the real it's terrifying in certain ways and disconcerting in a bunch of ways. And yeah, I'm with you. All right, that was my second one.
Okay, I'll go on to my second one. I think my second one, I'll do it. What's his face? What's the guy from David Duchovny? He's from X-Files. He writes, and he wrote a novel called Bucky effing Dent.
Yeah,
and I love it.
Oh really?
I'm reading. Yeah, it's a real. I was thoroughly surprised by his writing ability.
Yeah,
Duchovny can write, and it's a father and son stuff. So it's a kind of a lob, not to use the baseball puns too much, but it's an easy hook for the J Dog. I'm excited. Like it's written from this son's perspective, and his dad's about to die, and they have like a strange relationship, and it's really good. I'm excited to see where it goes, because I think it's gonna end with the Bucky effing Dent, hitting the home run.
That's kind of come up at some point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard him.
But it's really well written.
That's cool. I'm encouraged about that. I heard him do a bunch of podcasts when it first came out, and that like he was talking quite a bit about it. And that father-son piece was what he kind of. There's something about like fathers, sons, and baseball that for some reason always seem to triangulate together. Because you think of like Field of Dreams and stuff like that. Like for whatever reason, that seems to be one of those avenues that we tend to share together. I don't know. I like that stuff.
I'm with and it kind of coincides with I'm really into baseball again. I don't know, like every once in a while, it just swings. Every couple of years, I just really get excited about going to baseball games and
because you went to a Cubs
being a part of the crowd and watching. Yeah, I went to a Cubs game, but I think it all started with I blame Bianca when she lived with us in San Antonio and taught my little kid how to throw a baseball, and she was all about baseball, so it's probably because of that.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, so that's my number 2, Bucky effing Dent.
Bucky effing Dent. All right, that's a good. Yeah, I'm excited about that. So we had talked about this in the vacation one, and you just reminded me because of that book. But I knocked out 3 books over vacation this year, so that was pretty good. I felt like that was like and not all like fiction. Usually I knock out novels over vacation, but this one was fun this year.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm going to put that one on my list, man.
It's quick. It's a quick read. It's real short chapters.
Nice. Good. Yeah. So my third one's connected to my second one, which is all the Dallas shootings and stuff. And kind of for context, so as we joke about all the time, but it's not really a joke, it's a real thing. I preach at this Baptist church on an interim basis. I'm almost done with my time there, but the way the schedule worked is like 3 weeks ago I preached my last sermon before I went on vacation. And my last sermon before I went on vacation was about I don't remember the passage entirely, but it was in response in some ways to the Orlando shootings, and so I kind of made the point that the two kind of Christian responses that were given to these kind of events are, on the one hand, confession and sort of finding our own fault and sin in the midst of this stuff, and then on the other hand, lament. And that I said we need to learn as people to start practicing lament better. And I said I don't really know what that looks like, but we need to figure it out. So fast forward to Sunday, when of course I get to step back into the pulpit and we're dealing with this stuff all over again. And so I think my highlight, or my third best, is that I'm at a congregation that lets me try some stuff like that. So this Sunday we tried to practice lament, and it was just something I put right into like the order of worship. So as part of our liturgy on Sunday was practicing lament, and we just basically read through Psalm 82, but we did it very slowly and in couple verse chunks, and then sat quietly and contemplated and lamented. And then we had, if people wanted to, they could kind of cry out specific things that those verses would sort of call to mind or whatever. But and Psalm 82 isn't even that much of a lamentful psalm, but it sort of really hit with what's been happening in the world. So I think my best is that there are Christian practices like lament, and there are places and people that will allow you to lead them into those things. And I still don't really know how to do lament well, but I'm excited to keep trying to practice it when it's appropriate, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's a real touch point with the congregation and with society and with reality, you know.
Yeah.
We have a tool in our tool bag that I think the world is in dire need of. Because I did a similar thing on Thanksgiving. My Thanksgiving sermon this year was weird because around Thanksgiving I missed my mom. That's what happens. And so I kind of like thankful, but in a sad way, is pretty much my sermon. And so many people, I felt a little, but it's a tricky thing. You know, I commend you for, to bringing your congregation to a sad place, because as leaders, it feels a little weird, it feels like, shouldn't this be, as we're ministers of the gospel, shouldn't we always have hope, and shouldn't we always be smiling, and shouldn't we always just be, like blowing stuff up and like all excited? Aren't we gonna, what if we bring these congregants down and they don't come back up? What if they into sadness or something? But I commend you. I think we need to do it more. I think we need to be sad more. I think we need to turn our dancing into sadness a lot more often than we do. I think by staying away from the trenches of sadness, I think we put on a false front, and we end up perpetuating that idea that Christians, they're not really in touch with what's going on, and they just smile and bear with it. And
I think you're right,
that's
about
awesome.
That. I'm torn. Like, I feel like I'm not. It's hard, and it's not the way you and I are wired generally, so that makes it harder still. But the second part of that is, man, like I feel like it's just it's a non sort of knowing or practicing of the Psalms, right? Like this, like 70% of the Psalms are lament, and that's not an abnormal place for the Christian life necessarily, but we've decided that it is, as like just culturally, and I'm just blown away by.
You really?
Yeah. I don't know.
You're hammering us with solves. I think that's awesome. I think I need that. I'm thinking about that. I think I might steal that idea from you. We might do a little lamenting on this Sunday because it fits well with. I'm taking the congregation through Ecclesiastes.
Oh yeah, you
and
have to.
I think, yeah, I think we need to do it. That's good. That's just a bonus to us talking. Anyway, that's cool. But yeah, I almost did. That's enough gospel right there. Anyway, what number are we on? We're on 3.
Yes.
And that was your third?
That was my third. Is lament. Yeah. And lamenting together.
I may sound, yeah. Anyway, my number 3. I think my number 3 is on July 2nd. We went up to my sister. We went down to my sister-in-law's in Kalamazoo because she's on the verge of giving birth any second now to her 4th child, and so we just kind of like being around her just in case something happens, But her husband works at Stryker. One of his coworkers is a guy named Chad, and he lives on West Lake, which is it's right west of Kalamazoo, obviously. So he has a house right on the lake. And so did I lose you?
Nope, I'm still here. Are you still here? Okay, good.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you might need to cut that. Dang it. It means more editing for you, buddy. Yeah, these long pauses are like, so anyway, we're down in Kalamazoo, and we're down on the this West Lake, and there's this Chad guy, and he lives on the lake, and he is really into water skiing. He's actually into like surfing behind a water ski boat. He's rigged his boat. Yeah. He's rigged his boat so he's got this big wake, and he surfs behind it. Anyway, that's beside the point. He's so into water skiing that he has rules, like you can't, he won't let anyone tube off the back of his boat before water skiing. You have to at least try water skiing.
Yeah, you have to learn.
And so, yeah, you have to at least try water skiing, because otherwise, if you try tubing, you'll just tube the rest of your life. It's just being dragged behind the boat. There's no work, and it's about half the fun. But anywho, so he takes my little girl Elsie, and he puts her on this like training water ski thing, and he pulls her around the backyard, and then he puts her in the water and hand pulls her around so he's got this system down of teaching little kids how to water ski, and just for making them succeed. He's setting the stage so my daughter's gonna water ski. So then she pops up the first time, and she's just water skiing, and she's got this huge grin. And it was, she's 6 years old, and she's water skiing around West Lake, and my heart's about to explode. And I'm so grateful. And I think this comes up once every other week or once a week, like that there's people that have different talents and different. Chad, I praise God for this Chad guy, because he staged for my daughter to succeed and have this huge smile and have this amazing experience. And it was really, really fun. I was just like, man, that is so cool that my little girl, because I didn't water ski until I was like 18. And because we're living in California, there's not many lakes and stuff. People don't water ski in the ocean very much, I don't think. And so, yeah. Anywho, I'm grateful. That was one of my 5 best, is just seeing my daughter pop up on this water ski. And my brother-in-law was in the boat with us. I was holding the other end, because another thing that Chad does is he doesn't tie it to the boat. He has someone in the back of the boat, just so I so I was kind of helping her, like if it was a little too much slack, I'd pull her up, or whatever. So I was holding the rope, and my brother-in-law videoed it. And I probably watched that video like 2,000 times. Like just my little girl, like water skiing. And she was like, oh, it was so cool. Anywho, so that's my third.
Oh man, that was amazing. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, plug your headphones in, would you?
I can't. They're dead.
All right, we've got a brutal echo because whenever I talk, it comes through your speakers and then back into your microphone.
Oh, dang it. I'm so sorry. How it's going to sound like we're at a baseball game, right?
Kind of. Like, so the
Kind of.
as long as we're not talking at the same time, I think it's okay. It's when like I'm trying to laugh at one of your stories or join in with you, then then there's like this cycle that it creates, I think.
That's a bummer.
Yeah,
that's a radio show thing too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you got to turn down your radio, Jason. That's the.
This one's gonna be echo. This one's gonna have a little echo. I'll turn them out. How about that?
We'll fix it next time.
Yeah, because my headphones they take AA batteries. That's a 5 worst. why you have to have batteries?
Yeah, just plug them in. Man.
That's no, they're no, because then I can't hear you.
I know. I'm joking.
Not a funny joke.
Not really.
All right.
I mean, like, why do they make headphones that need batteries? Why don't they just make headphones that you can plug in? You know.
Amen.
That's
true.
What I'm saying. I'm with you.
We're echoing. All right, you hit it.
Hey, so
you're number 3.
Hold on.
4.
Like that thing with your kid is amazing, and it's the guy who can teach it that sounds awesome because we have up where we go in the summer. We have like 100 kids. That's not true, but it's a lot of kids, like 20 or something, and we've had like one kid get up on water skis in like 5 years because it's just so hard to do. But we haven't prepared them to do it well, and so I don't think we know any of the techniques other than we hold the rope, but that doesn't seem to help, and then we can't get the speed of the boat figured out in relation to the kid. And we've got strong little kids like gymnasts and soccer players and stuff, but it's really hard to get up. So it's amazing that he's got like this whole system for it. That's really cool.
It blessed my socks off, man. It was so cool, and it's nothing but sacrifice for him. Like he was in the he was in the water the whole time, and he was getting these kids to start up, and he, at certain times he's like the kids are clawing on his face and stuff because the trick was he stands them up. He has them as close to standing up already as possible. Yeah. And then he yells "go" on the boat, whatever. And it was cool. Good job, Chad. I sent him a thank you note. It was
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, so there's another point there that to me is fascinating that I've been doing a lot of thinking about that I don't have the answer to. But it strikes me that sort of like lifting up and preparing so that when the moment comes they're able to actually do it. I think we fail at that as the church pretty consistently.
Yeah.
In terms of developing adult followers of Jesus. And I think a lot of the times the church says just throw on the skis and we're going to hit the thing and let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Or the church says we're going to talk a lot about water skiing and you should probably figure it out in all the talking. And then we're going to put the skis on and hit the boat and go. And for some people that works, right? I mean, some people do water ski that way. But this like in between stuff of no, you should learn what it feels like on the land, and then you should feel like what it's like in the water a little bit, and then you should, and then you should have somebody holding you for a little while until we tie it to the boat. Like, yeah, like all of that stuff. I don't know. There's, if you or I ever figure out how to write a book ever, that's something we'll work on because all those parts matter in different ways, right? And I think we just blow through some of that stuff, assuming that what works for some of like our best people will work for everyone, and it's just not true.
Yeah, because the same thing. My older son, he had it was a difference in skis. Mm-hmm. He had to have longer skis. It was just and his prep for my son was different. You know what I mean? Yeah. He didn't pull him around on the grass because it's heavy. And he did pull him around in the water, but just enough to get him up. And then it was a cool thing to see him change his training process for different people. And we go to what we know, and a lot of times we train people the way that we learned, and then they're like, what? I think that's a big indictment of the church, and I'm convicted of that on a pretty regular basis. Of man, how do we get better at actually going on adventures and training on the job with our congregants rather than just talking about it?
Yes, I just saw a video called "Why School Sucks," and it's this younger guy who does these videos, and they're edited and they've got some music behind them, but it's basically him talking to a camera, and he's like this motivational speaker guy or whatever, and most of the stuff is pretty interesting actually. Like he does a pretty good job, but this one was one of those, and one of his points was like the most important thing you can learn in school is how you learn.
Yeah.
So learn how you learn and live into that. And it's kind of that same dynamic of we think everybody learns Jesus the same way, but it's just not true. Like nobody learns anything the same way. So especially like I've just been thinking a lot about that in my own house. I've got 4 kids, and 3 of them tend to learn really well in this one way of learning, and one of them learns entirely differently. And so we just have to be more intentional and aware and careful with that stuff.
That's a good
I love that story. Yeah. All right. So I was finishing up vacation. I was in Chicago. This is my number 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in Chicago, and there's this conference I go to every year when I can called the Ecclesia Project. It's not really a conference. They would get mad if I said that, but it's a kind of a gathering of theologians and church folks and pastors, and they get together and talk about the church. And that's actually going to be my 5th best. But my 4th best is I wasn't able to. I was like the way my schedule worked and whatever else. I didn't want to like get a hotel room and do all that stuff. And so at the last minute, I got a hold of my buddy who has been part of my Bible study in San Antonio for a bunch of years. And in October, they moved back to Mount Prospect, and so I called him and I sent him a text that, hey, anyway, I could crash on a couch. And he's like, yeah, no problem. So and it ended up being amazing. We had a chance to hang out for a whole night, he and his wife and I, and it was just kind of the theme of my entire vacation this year was seeing old friends. And, I got to see you for a little while. I got to hang out with Greg, and then seeing Brandon in Chicago and a couple other folks along the way. It was really cool. And hanging out with Brandon was great. And I'm always amazed at and encouraged by and grateful for hospitality amongst brothers and sisters in Christ. Like it's just I don't know, like when Abby and I got married a long time ago, one of our expressed goals was to be an open house, like a house that was just constantly like anybody could use it when they needed it, and to be hospitable that way. And so I sometimes take for granted that other people are that way as well. But it's fun to take that for granted in some ways. And like we had this gospel reading over my vacation on Jesus sending out his disciples, and he tells them not to take anything with them, but to just rely on the hospitality of the people they meet. And it's pretty amazing when we give ourselves a chance to let our brothers and sisters in Christ care for us that way. Like it's really cool. And then, obviously you don't want to be like a total leech and whatever else, but there is an element of we don't put ourselves in those positions for all sorts of cultural reasons. And I think we're robbing ourselves of part of what the kingdom of God is when we do that. Like the idea of just like, if I travel to a city where I have a friend of like staying in a hotel or something, it's like, man, we just miss all those extra conversations and all the like little way, even the being uncomfortable some is part of the joy of being together in some ways. I don't know. So that one, being able to see friends and then having friends care for me in a way that allows for hospitality and meals and conversations and all of that. I think that was awesome.
Yeah, that's it. There's such an interesting aspect of that is like I grew up in one side of my family was hotel stairs,
right?
My mom's side was hotel stairs, And my dad's side, the whole family, like if you came to Missouri and you didn't stay with them, there would be something wrong.
They'd be so mad, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
to be honest, the hotel side, they love in an interesting way, in a less messy way. It's more sterile. It's more like proper, and there's etiquette, and there's it's a little more controlled, and there's a cool part of that, but there's a lack of depth, because on my dad's side, on the Griffith side, it's messy. You see, like we fight, like there's like there's like straight up screaming matches, and that kind of thing. But there's also just this, it's family, it's like there's a depth there that you can't get any other way than being all in, like than being in each other's business, and shacking up together in the non-sexual way of shacking up.
You use that expression.
You gotta edit that. I'm like the edit king right there. Okay. But like there's just this, it's a beautiful messness of sharing, and I appreciated that about your visit too, and it opens everyone's eyes, like I think you are, like, even the host is missing out by when there's no opportunities, you know what I mean, like
that's right.
ever since you came and visited with Greg, I think I've watched a little less TV, and
Nice.
I've been a little more quick to pick up the guitar and start singing with the kids, and I've been
Nice.
and then also, but this goes back into TV. I've started watching. Have you seen that television show on HGTV, Tiny Houses?
I know of it. I haven't really watched it.
There's people. It's like they're motorhomes, but they're like houses. They're just built out of wood rather than steel. They're on wheels, but and they vary from like 500 square feet to like 8,000 square feet. Whatever. That's not really a tiny house, but never mind. But it's been, and I think you visiting with Greg has kind of triggered this question: do I need so much space? Could we be hospitable in a smaller place? Do I need so many things? Like, and by hosting, the door is open to these questions. And I've always been under my wife and I, we got married and we had a similar thing, but I feel most at home when there's someone else in our house, like when there's, when Bianca was staying with us in San Antonio, and when the interns were staying with us, Mike Sampson and Emily Huck were staying with us in Jersey, and in California when Ed was living with us. Like, we always have these people living up with us, and it just brings out home. It brings out home. I don't know how that. It's a neat little piece. Of sharing your house, and also being. That's cool. That's my favorite of probably both of our 5 bets. And it comes from you. That's a pretty cool one. I like that one. Good job, Greg. I like that. Okay, my number 4, is that what we're on?
I believe so.
Or 5. I don't even know.
You're 4.
My 4. Have I already mentioned Canoeing the Mountains by Todd Bolsinger?
You mentioned it to me when I was at your house, but not on the podcast.
I don't think it's been on the podcast, but I'm really getting into the book. I love the book. So 2 of my 5 best are books. One's Bucky F and Dent, and then this next one's Canoeing the Mountains. And it's Todd Bolsinger, and he's just a hero of mine. The professor / mentor guy at Fuller, and he came up with this leadership book, and I think he's a genuine leader in that he's a servant. I just love that guy's heart. And this book is about Lewis and Clark, and it's how they went to finding where the Columbia River starts, and they were thinking that they were going to be able to go across the rest of the country. Lewis and Clark did by canoe. So they hiked up, and they get to the beginning of the Columbia River, and they run into the Rockies. And what they prepared for, what like in what is their recent past has not prepared them at all for their future, so
Yeah.
and Todd likens this to where the church is at. We've trained leaders for a world that we're not, that's not comparable. It's that our tools aren't, they didn't need a canoe going into the Rockies. They needed tents and horses, and they needed, climbing gear rather than water gear. And so the book is just challenging us as leaders and as followers of Jesus to put aside. He recognizes there's going to be some loss and there's going to be some pain, but the only way we are to move forward or can move forward is to be adaptive and be innovative and seek out the adventure. And it's a cool book. I really like it. I'm almost done with it, and
I'm gonna order that one in because it does sound like one that I would enjoy with my staff.
Yeah,
I do want to hear that one.
Yeah, and with my visioning team, we're going through like writing a mission statement and all that stuff, and we're meeting tonight, and I think I'm gonna put that all on pause and just do a little thinking through some of this stuff together. Like how can we think of something new? And that's a hard task. Like how do you even go about, because if you think of it, usually it's not new. It's because we remember doing this or that anyway. So that's my number 4 is Canoeing the Mountains by Todd Bolsinger.
Nice. So my number 5 is a group called the Ecclesia Project. I mentioned that they meet in Chicago every summer at what they call their gathering, but they have things throughout the year, and they have a website. So if you're listening to this and it sounds at all interesting, Ecclesia Project, I think .org. You can find them on Facebook, whatever. But they have a really great series of blogs that they put out all the time. And I've been going to this conference for a little over 10 years now, semi-consistently. I've probably been to 6 or 7 of them. And every year it's great. This year I was a little less excited about the theme of the conference because it was on vulnerability or being vulnerable. I don't know, something.
Holding hands. Yeah, holding hands during prayer.
Holding hands when we pray. And I was like, come on, guys. But it was really, really good. And I was really challenged and encouraged by one of the things this community does well is they almost go the opposite of other church conferences, which try to pull in like the mega church pastors and the huge authors who's written a ton of books. This group has a bunch of guys who have written a bunch of books, and they usually get to talk a little bit here and there too. But usually the speakers are pastors, and sometimes usually pastors at smaller churches that this group just thinks are doing kind of a faithful job of being ministers to the gospel. And so they had this panel at the end where they had 2 or 3 different pastors on this panel, and they were talking about vulnerable leadership and what it looks like to lead from a place of vulnerability. And it was really that was a really challenging / encouraging piece for me of this will surprise you, Jason, but vulnerability is not one of my strengths. And I tend to hate it or any talk about it. So that's one of the reasons I was not excited about this conference. But but it was really impressive to listen and to kind of watch and hear the ways in which different pastors had practiced that and been open to being vulnerable with their congregations, and it was really on the whole it was just really encouraging, and it reminded me of a bunch of different things, but one of the things we talk about a lot is just being authentic in our preaching and in our leadership, and that authenticity when we're broken people includes being broken with each other, and that does it, there's ways to do that aren't the super sappy kind of what I would normally call obnoxious ways of being vulnerable or whatever, but there are still legitimately, like, we can be open and honest in our leadership and in our teaching in a way that allows for that kind of vulnerability. And I was really encouraged and impressed by that at this gathering this year.
That's interesting. That's good. That's really neat. Yeah. But just that's I swim in that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff. But I like it. But I could see you've really taught me the negative side of that is when people are like trying to be vulnerable, like I don't know, it's like the vulnerability is it's an art. It's not a skill. I think has to be because I think when you there's sometimes that you shouldn't share. There's something like that you don't want to be a hot mess. You want to, but you also, it's an art, and when people are proficient at it, I think those are the people that are the widest doors open to the gospel. Like when somebody is mastered authentically trying to follow Jesus through thick and thin, that's good. That's the good stuff right there. That's why I love Henry Nouwen so much. I think
I'll give you a shout out here. This is my wife is really good at this kind of leadership. She's in my life. She's somebody that I think of as, like, when I think of people who can lead vulnerably and are comfortable in their vulnerability leading, she's really good at that. It takes a toll on her in some other ways, but in terms of like watching, she's on a mission trip this week with a bunch of high school kids going to Milwaukee, and watching her kind of pray and gather the group at the beginning of their trip, and the amount of sort of authentic honesty she has and the way she's vulnerable even in her leadership, it does allow kids to take advantage of her once in a while and things like that, but on the whole she really does a much better job of modeling, I think, who Jesus is and that kind of stuff. So you are right. There is a downside to it. And we've all been in situations where people are overly vulnerable for just cause, but and that stuff is hard to take for sure. And
I echo your statements on your wife. Abby jumps in. I think she's an artist. I think that's a good call right there. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's as much as I'm going to talk about vulnerability for one day. So what's your side?
Baseball.
There we go. Now we're talking.
Tree forts. Motorboats. Anyhow. Okay. My number 5. What's my number 5? I think my number 5 is, there's so many because we've been off so long. So let's do this one. I'll do on the 4th of July. We live in Michigan now, and fireworks are legal here, which is when I grew up in Massachusetts when I was a little kid up until high school, and fireworks were legal, and then I moved to California, which they are not. And so I've usually not. Most of my life I've experienced non-firework life. I love fireworks. I love blowing things up. That could be it right there, but it goes further. There's a guy in my congregation named Carl, and they call him Cork. His name's Carl Schilleman. His name's Cork. and he is a man. He's just tough as nails. He wears cowboy boots and jeans every day of his life. Like I saw him on the 4th, and that's what he does. He cowboy boots and jeans, even though when it's like 190 degrees outside and muggy and all kinds of crazy. But we go over to his house, and we're just playing around in the pool and barbecuing and stuff for lunch, and then we blow off a couple fireworks. But somewhere in the process, and Cork is one of these guys that he honestly gets pleasure from giving and creating pleasure for other people. Like he's one of these, and he's more my fifth than anything else. This Cork guy is just a loving encouragement to give more and to serve more. He, like, I've noticed when he shows up to church and it's not shoveled off a walkway, or some little trail hasn't been shoveled off, he'll grab a shovel, even in his church best clothes, and just shovel it off. Like, he opens the doors. For the fair gender, he takes care of my kids. He's always doing stuff. Anyway, he sneaks in to my van at some point, I don't know when, all these legit fireworks, like legit. And so I don't even know about it until we get home. And my son has put some fireworks in our trunk just because we were hoping to blow some off at the Shillmans, but we didn't end up getting to it. And so we go, and mixed in with ours there are some mortars. There's those mortar things with the balls that you drop into them, and they shoot up in the sky and blow up, and there's like a case of these things. And so I honestly, it was like the best 4th of July imaginable. Like, we're sitting and the one negative is Michigan, it doesn't get dark until 10.
Yeah,
and my kids go to bed at 7:30. Oh, what is up with this white night stuff? Are we in Russia? This is crazy. Anyway,
you're way north, bro.
Yeah, I am very north. So we're lighting off these legit fireworks, and I was just, my soul was smiling. Like, I had by the end of it, I had 3 or 4 mortars just lined up with double mortars in them. Like, and so I'm lighting like 5 wicks they're all attached to 2 things, and it's just boom, 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 just blowing up all this stuff. And our neighbors must have been so PO'd, but it was awesome. Anyway, so the 4th of July, like, fireworks extravaganza by Cork was my fifth.
Funny.
Leaning heavily on and I love those people that walk it. They live it. And they show you that the reward is there. Like Jesus said, like, you give me your life, I'll give you real life. And so this guy, he gives up his life and he just serves, and you could see that his joy is so genuine and so neat, and it's like a magnet. It pulls. I notice whenever I hang around with him, later that, like, in his wake, I'm a kinder person, and I'm looking for, let me do those dishes, like, I can do that, I'm not that tired, I'll take out the trash, I'll do this for somebody, so
I love guys like that, and I've spent a lot of my life trying to learn how to ignore guys like that, because they just wear me out.
That's really honest.
Because I'm not nearly service oriented or selfless enough to be one of those guys. And it's like, my dad's one of those guys. I've got some uncles that are like that. I've got some friends that are like that. It's like, man, every time I'm around them, I just feel so bad about myself. So you just are trying to develop these buffers of like, man, I want to love being around this guy, but I just can't hang out that much because then I want to start serving people, and that's no good. So.
That's no good. Then I won't be a selfish jerk, What the heck happens if that happens? Yeah, I'm with you. And I'm as I get older, I'm starting to cave in a little, which is good. I think it's God softening my heart, and it's cool.
That is good.
So that was a good one. Hopefully, give us a t-shirt. Somebody give us a t-shirt.
Oh, yeah. So this is something we're working on. If you are somebody who does design at all, please tweet Jason or I Well, I guess Jason, are you on Twitter? No, Jason's on Instagram.
I have a Twitter account, but I don't think I've checked it in a while.
Yeah, Jason's on Instagram. You can find. What's your Instagram handle?
Jay Griffiths, probably.
I think
Let
it's
me check.
Jay Griffiths. Check
I
and
think it's
see.
Jay.
Send Jason a picture if you design something for the podcast that you think would be cool, or if you design a T-shirt idea. We do want to get T-shirts, although we're we have no idea how many people listen to the podcast, so it might be a terrible idea to get T-shirts. We've been trying for a little while to break into the top 300 on iTunes Christian podcasts, and then recently iTunes stopped calculating the top 300 and they only do the top 200 now. So I think that means we made it. I'm not sure.
I think if my calculations are correct.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in.
I think we're in. I think we did it. Way to go, everybody. So we do have a new logo for the screen. I haven't figured out how to get iTunes to put it on instead of the old one. But I think when you see that, you're gonna be like, "Oh, this is way better. These guys look legit." So we'll see.
Is it us in the garage?
Yeah, it's way better.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's way better. I'll send it to you. We'll put it on Instagram and stuff. But I haven't been able to figure out how to get it on iTunes so that when you subscribe, you can see that. But thank you for listening. We enjoy doing this, and it's fun to talk to people who have listened to it and are like, "Hey, I actually really like your podcast." And so, thank you for doing it, Jason. Always good to talk to you, and we'll catch you next week.
All right, later.
All right, bye.
Bye.